something else that happened to me when I was in Alaska. When I was in Alaska in 1998, at the same time that gay people were still being yelled at overtly in the middle of the street, that was when I contracted my one and only sexually transmitted infection. I was with a fellow. I had gone home with him from the gay pride picnic, and I had stayed with him 6 weeks. I thought he looked like Tom Selleck, the guy that was in the popular TV series called Magnum P.I. back in the day, maybe 1980, early 80s. Anyway, I was infatuated with Tom Selleck when I was in grade school. I mean, you tell us we're not born gay, for God's sake. I lusted over this man when I was 8 years old, all right? And then I met him in Alaska when I was 25. 1998. There he was flipping burgers at the gay pride picnic. It was Tom Selleck, I swear, except he hadn't aged. He looked just like Tom Selleck looked when I was in kindergarten. So we went home. We were fun lovers. At least I thought we were. We had a great time, and he would probably tell you the same. We were having sex on a weight bench out in the sunshine in Alaska, and he had his finger up my butt, and he looked at me, and he said, "You know you have some bumps there." I said, "Bumps? Like what? What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, they could be warts. You should go have them checked out." So with fear and trepidation, I went to the doctor in Fairbanks, Alaska. She was a rather kind young woman, and at the same time, it seemed like she was putting me through a torture routine because she told me I had warts, and the only way to get rid of them, she said, I think she smiled when she said it, was that someone would have to put a hot nail up my ass. And she said, and we don't do it in Fairbanks, you have to go to Anchorage. So she gave me the number of a doctor, and I called him up. He was Japanese. I don't know if I should try to imitate his accent. I won't. I'll be politically correct. But he had a very, very strong accent. And he said, how far inside of you are the warts? I said, well, I didn't measure. But I don't know, maybe an inch and a half? And he said, it is impossible unless you are from Mars. I said, well, what do I do? He said, well, they can't be that deep inside, but we have a treatment, and it involves putting a hot rod up your up your ass. That's what he said. I mean, in his own way. So I said, how long will I have to live in Anchorage, Alaska? And he said, like 3 months, and you have to come in every week. I went, there must be a better way. So I went back home, and I told Magnum P.I. about it. And he said, what? You can get those treated in San Francisco for free. I said, but we're not in San Francisco, Dorothy. And he said, oh, but you can be quickly. And we looked online for flights. They were over $400, which was a lot in 1998. I had a small amount of savings even after my 3 years in a corporate job. So he said, you should put your name on the ride board at the university. I said, well, is there any likelihood I can get a ride to San Francisco? He said, fuck yeah. So I went to the university, put my name on the ride board. You know, by the time I got home, Magnum P.I.'s phone was ringing, and I answered it, and it was somebody ready to go to San Francisco in 15 minutes. I cried. I didn't want to leave Magnum. I thought it was so rude of me. You know, we were living together and all, even though I lived in a tent next to his pond made by beavers. And you know what she did, Magnum P.I.? She looked at me and she said, you're not the first. Do you think you're the first one ever to come and go? Magnum didn't care too much, but and I got over it pretty quick. I got in the car with a complete stranger, and we took off, and we headed east. And we went into the Yukon Territory by that night, and I forgot about Magnum. I mean, not that the guy driving me to San Francisco was a lover. He was a straight guy, and he got to hear all about my gay experience in Fairbanks, Alaska, and about my warts that I was going to have treated in San Francisco for 7 days. He got to hear about my life, and he was very patient. He probably talked to me a lot about his life too. But we camped in the Yukon under the stars. Even though there were bears everywhere, we never saw one. And we arrived in San Francisco 7 days later in a Jeep Cherokee covered head to toe in mud. I mean, this vehicle, you couldn't tell what color it was. It used to be red and it was covered in brown mud. And then we drive down a hill, and I had stopped at a payphone to call the guy that my friend Magnum PI knew in San Francisco. He said I could stay with this guy. So this guy's standing on the street corner, and he's got on like a cute little t-shirt without sleeves, and he's looking kind of hunky. And I get out of the car, and he goes, well, welcome to San Francisco. I'm going to take you out to dinner. We're going to go uphill because we have to go higher on Nob Hill. Homeless people don't climb Nob Hill, and we'll have dinner in a nice place, and then we'll go back to my place right in the middle of the ghetto. So I lived there in his walk-in closet in a nice apartment 6 floors above the roughest neighborhood in San Francisco for 3 months, and I got treated every week at the city clinic. And I looked in the prescription for nutritional healing, and I learned that vitamin A was really good if you had warts, and that relieving stress was good, to do anything you could to relieve stress. So I engaged lots of men in full frontal delight, body to body and cock to cock at the naked beach and at the sex parties and the sex clubs, and I took up yoga and I went out dancing. I had a really good time in San Francisco thanks to my one and only sexually transmitted infection. I never went to another gay pride parade. Just one of having people scream in my face was enough. And do you know that we were screaming back just as loud? Nobody could hear anybody. It's not to say that it stayed like that. And it's not to say I would never go to another pride parade. It's just that I took to celebrating. I celebrate with everyone that I make love with. I tell them that they're not an object of my desire. They're a collaborator. They're a collaborator for me to journey into places of ecstatic oneness with the divine. Now that might sound like highfalutin language, as my mama and grandma would say. Highfalutin, uppity. So to translate, when I make ecstatic love, I get to see God. I get to go to the zenith. I get to go past the stars. I get to see the most beautiful places I've ever seen. I get to writhe and cavort in the water with the dolphins and with the lover I'm with. And I tell them they're my collaborator in this journey. I mean, who's to say I won't ever have chlamydia or gonorrhea? And yet, you know, I had a guy that wouldn't hook up with me online the other day because he knew that I had hosted an orgy 3 days before, and he was almost sure that I would have a sexually transmitted infection. He said, just check the numbers. STIs are up 300%. Everyone's on PrEP, and they think they can't get HIV now, but they can still get chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis. I said, well, whatever your numbers say, they haven't seemed to affect my life. I've had sex with thousands of men since 1998 at the Gay Pride Parade in Fairbanks, and I have not had another sexually transmitted infection since I started dancing in bed, taking my vitamins, eating well, relieving stress in my life, and really loving myself while I make love. So that is my testimonial about how I quit my corporate job and went hitchhiking in Alaska, met Magnum PI, got my one and only sexually transmitted infection, hitched a ride to San Francisco, and got cured by dancing, singing, and going to the city clinic so that the doctor could put vinegar on my warts. Tune in next time when we talk about another fascinating topic, and I might even sing you a song. For now, if teardrops were pennies and heartaches were gold, I'd have all the treasures my pockets could hold. I'd be oh so wealthy with treasures untold. If teardrops were pennies and heartaches were gold. An acre of diamonds I'd offer to you, a solid gold mansion, an airplane or two. This world would be yours, dear, to have and to hold, if teardrops were pennies and heartaches were gold. Here's the third verse that I wrote by changing the tense of one verb to be. Teardrops are pennies and heartaches are gold. We have all the treasures our pockets can hold. We are also wealthy with treasures untold, 'cause teardrops are pennies and heartaches are gold. We are also wealthy with treasures untold, 'cause teardrops are pennies and heartaches are gold. Ain't highfalutin, is it?